fee.
Cool. Well, hi, John. Welcome to breakfast.
Well, we already did breakfast.
I always mess up the name of my own podcast. It's How Do You Like Your Eggs? So how did you like your eggs?
I liked them scrambled with chorizo.
Well, yeah, I give you options of meat because you're being difficult.
I told you what I liked, and you're like, no, we're not
Well, you just
doing
said
that.
scrambled.
Yeah, but that's what I thought it was. Is like, how do you like them? Do you like them fried, over hard, over medium, over easy, scrambled?
Right. And I also thought because this is the second time I've run into like, I want them scrambled, but plain. Like, you just like plain scrambled eggs?
Well, that's usually what I'll get, but with like some other shit, like scrambled eggs and bacon or something like that. But then when you opened up the question to like, no, not just like the preparation of the eggs, but like the egg dish, I was like, whoa, okay. Well, I like huevos rancheros, I like huevos con machaca, and then you were like, no, you're going way too far with this.
You didn't say those. The only thing you said was steak and eggs.
No, I definitely said huevos rancheros and huevos con machaca.
Maybe.
Yeah. Huevos con machaca is fucking... Do you know Lucy's on...
Pico?
Yeah, it's either Venice or Pico. I can never remember which.
It's
I think
Pico
it is
and La Brea.
Pico. Pico and La Brea. Yeah, that place has great huevos con machaca.
Really?
Yeah, really good.
So how was my chorizo and eggs?
Chorizo and eggs were muy bien. Muy sabroso.
Thanks. I was nervous making them. I haven't made them in a long time.
Well, it's eggs and chorizo, you know?
You could mess it up. It's just, I guess I can't because it's in my blood.
I guess not. Well, what's your specialty when it comes to eggs?
I don't know. I usually make eggs really well. I mean, the first time I ever poached an egg, I nailed it.
Poached eggs, I have not acquired that taste.
You don't like the runny yolk?
No, never have. Like, if I'm going to get fried eggs, it's usually fried over hard. But I feel weird asking for fried eggs over hard. Like, people don't know. I don't think they order that very often.
They do.
Yeah?
I used to work at a fast-paced breakfast place downtown. And people order all the time. I judge them.
Not as much
and
as
I looked at them weird.
over easy, though. People like the yolk more than they don't like the yolk.
Yeah, I get over medium a lot. You know.
Over hard is like, why even put the yolk in there?
I don't get it. I like the runny, juicy.
Yeah, I don't. It doesn't taste
juicy
right
egg.
to me.
Even when it's scrambled, I don't like them to be dry. Like, I want them like a medium, not wet, like a medium scramble.
See, I've never really noticed that. With scrambled eggs, it's like, okay, as soon as it's all mixed together, then they're ready.
Like, haven't you been to a continental breakfast and the eggs are like really dry and just like...
I have noticed when eggs were too dry, and honestly, I'd rather have them too dry than too wet. I don't like wet eggs. Like, you know, when you scoop eggs out and then you put it on your plate, and then there's like this pool that kind of just like...
Yeah, that's gross.
That runs away from the eggs. It's like, no, that's not how it should be.
But that's usually
should
like
be fluffy.
water. Yeah.
You know? Fluffy is a good adjective for the right eggs.
You know the trick to make them fluffy? Put a little sour cream. A little bit of sour cream.
I'm not a big fan of sour cream.
You don't taste it in there. Or what I used to do is milk. Just put a little bit of milk in it.
I've heard that. I've heard that before. Did you ever used to put milk in your mac and cheese?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's
milk
like
and butter.
That's not a well kept secret though.
No, doesn't it say on the box?
I don't know. I've never read the box.
What?
I've never read the box. I never eat mac and cheese, and never.
So.
But I used to when I was a kid. That was my babysitter's go-to for us, and she would make it with milk instead of water, and it was like that was the trick for us. We didn't know any better. We thought it was like it's supposed to be with water. Milk is like that's too unhealthy, and she would be like treating us.
That's crazy.
With mac and cheese with milk in it.
Wow, you had a wild childhood.
Yeah.
Babysitters. I don't remember really having babysitters ever. We were always just dropped off at family members' houses.
I had a babysitter until 18.
What?
Yeah.
18 years old?
Yeah. Yeah. So me and my siblings, you know this. I have 3 younger siblings. So it goes me, a year later, Steven, a year after that, Sarah, a year after that, Mariah. And for some reason, my mom never trusted us without a babysitter. So until I was 18, if they were gone for more than a night, we had our babysitter, Jimmy. Yeah.
Jimmy?
Her name was Jennifer, but I couldn't pronounce Jenny when I was a baby. I called her Jimmy, and the name just stuck.
So how old was she when you were 18?
I don't know. I mean, she's...
That's an old babysitter then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you had the same babysitter your entire...
Yeah. I don't think she would, I mean, like, she didn't rely on babysitting money, but like, by the time we were in high school, she didn't rely on babysitting money. It's just like, she'd always done a good job. Mom was like, mm. And I wonder if Jimmy was ever like, on the other end of the phone, was like, Suzanne, your kids are in high school. I don't think they need me. I told my buddy that in high school, and he laughed at me, like, just like you are. He's like, dude, that's excessive.
It is. Like, the look on I'm shocked right now.
Yeah. So a lot of people feel that way, and
it's called a babysitter. You're like young adults in a sense, like teenagers.
My mom was overprotective. She sheltered. She did not, like, my mom, until I left for college, if I was going to go over to a friend's house, she would call and make sure the parents were going to be there to chaperone. So I just didn't have any friends until I went to college.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah. I didn't bother.
Or I would have rebelled a lot. They're just like, we would have had problems.
I mean, part of the reason I think that she went to those lengths is because in 9th grade, like right when 9th grade started, I got suspended for smoking weed because I went over to my friend's house and we smoked weed. And then she's just like, oh, John's going down the wrong path. I got to make sure that he ends up going to college and not to jail. She didn't rebel. Like, my mom was like, stayed in line.
My mom was the one that, like, stood up for herself and for us, like, to her dad, because her dad was like an alcoholic asshole sometimes. And I remember her being like, you can't talk to me that way. You can't talk to my kids that way. You're out of line, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's just what it is, you know? Like,
my mom did that once when I was a kid, but only because my grandfather would keep making like really racist jokes at the dinner table for like Thanksgiving, and my mom was like, I'm not going to have my kids listening to that and thinking that's okay. So she gave him an ultimatum. She said, you can either stop making jokes like that or you can't come back for Christmas and Thanksgiving. And he straightened his act up, but he was a lot more quiet after that. In fact, I don't remember him speaking much at all after that Thanksgiving.
Really? He just couldn't...
Yeah, he got muzzled.
Yeah. He had nothing else to say?
Yeah, I guess not. I mean, he would, but he was also like, he got older, and then eventually he got Alzheimer's, but he definitely, there was a huge dynamic change after that.
You know what's crazy is, like, so my mom would drop us off either at my grandmother's house or my aunt's house, and they lived a block away from each other. And that was like 2 blocks from our elementary school. Mm-hmm. So we would be dropped off there in the morning. I would make like breakfast for me and my brother, like a muffin or whatever. They were frozen. We'd heat them up. And then we would walk to school by ourselves. And we would be in the house by ourselves. And then after that, we'd go to my grandmother's house after school, let ourselves in. We had a key. And then we'd be alone for like 2-3 hours until my grandmother got home.
Latchkey kids. Mm-hmm. That's what the term is for that,
yep.
From what I hear.
I definitely was. Like, we had no supervision for hours.
Well, I mean, it would be, like, it's one... Honestly, the way I remember it, like, I would come home... So, I lived a mile from school for my entire life, and I walked to and from school every day until I went to college. I never had a car until I moved out to L.A. So, when I got home... my mom was usually at home or like out at the grocery store, like not far away, because she didn't have a job when I was growing up. My dad did, but generally speaking, even if I got home and they weren't there, it wouldn't be for that long before one of them came back. And the way it worked in middle school through 12th grade for me was because I went to a private school. We had mandatory athletics after school, and then I always had chamber orchestra or string ensemble after that. So I wouldn't get home until like 7 or 8 anyways, and by that time dinner was getting made.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I was consumed by extracurricular activities that were mandatory, basically.
I did ballet, jazz, and tap. I also
dance. Okay.
But the 3, I
Sure.
did 3 sections. My brother did too. He danced.
That's like me saying I did football, shot put, and discus, and you're like, sports.
Maybe. Well, I also did sports, but I played baseball and soccer, and then I used to do this basketball camp, and I was like, why? During the summer, I'm like, why am I here? Like, every time, I hate basketball. Why am I here? And every time I got hit in the face with a fucking ball.
You're supposed to catch the ball. Is that why you hated basketball? You couldn't figure out the catching part?
No, I just wasn't interested. I didn't want to do it.
I loved basketball, but I hated soccer. And I think when I was a little kid, I remember having to play soccer, and I hated it.
Me too.
Because I was a fat kid, and there's too much running going on.
I hated it. They always put me as goalie, and I would just be checking out my nails. I'd sit down.
What was your favorite sport, though, to play?
Softball.
Softball. I could see that. Yeah. You have a softball kind of energy.
What does that mean?
I don't know. It means in a parallel universe, you could be pretty dykey.
What?
I knew you'd hate that.
Yeah, why would I hate that? Why do you think I would hate that?
I don't know. Has anyone ever told you that?
Oh my god. My friends used to call me the littlest lesbian. I think why? But it's such a I don't like being labeled. It's putting me in a box. And does it matter?
Well, that's what they're saying.
Does it matter?
That you'd be put into a box.
Does it matter if I was a lesbian or not? It doesn't.
No. But you know how there's some, like, you know, you meet some guys and you're like, yeah, it's obvious that you're gay. And then you meet others and you're like, oh, had no idea. Same as lesbians.
Okay.
My sister had a dykey phase where she shaved her hair up here but let this hair grow. Yeah, like you can tell.
Yeah.
There's a difference between like a dykey phase and like just being a butch, though.
I guess. I don't know. Are you speaking from your sister's experience? Or what?
Well, I'm speaking on my experience being around my sister and her friends. Like every time I go to visit my sister, it's like the floodgates are open. All like the lesbians are coming out of the woodwork and just like showing themselves to me. Like I went to Minneapolis and crashed because her place or my sister's place with her wife and her kid is too small for me. She let me stay with a couple of her friends who were like real lesbians, like
opposed to fake lesbians,
as opposed to somebody that's growing up and having a phase. Like they're in their fucking 30s, like living together, like adopted kid, like
yeah,
like the whole thing. I mean,
it called like just they're living their lives.
Sure, but well, I mean, my point with that is like, not a lot of people in my neck of the woods growing up would get exposed to that degree of lesbianism ever. Because I grew up in like a fucking waspy area where they, you know, what's comfortable to them, they try not to stray away from that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy for me to imagine that because again, like growing up for me when I was in like we had that whole time I was in elementary school, underneath us we had like a duplex type thing, and underneath us lived a lesbian couple. I mean, it wasn't like outright, they didn't say it, but we knew, and it's
California,
and it was fine. And then even that, like my great aunts had a friend called Babe, and growing up I didn't know if it was like Pat from SNL. Like I didn't know if she was a girl or a boy growing up, because she was always like very like the janitor type, you know. And I think she was, because my great aunt was too, and they just called her Babe. And she never had a partner, nothing. It was just kind of a grouchy person.
Probably because she didn't have a partner.
But she's
probably lonely.
But it was like a thing everyone talked about. You know, Babe, when they would go out after church to the restaurants and stuff, they'd be like, "Sir, what would you like?" And she would never correct them because she liked it, you know.
How do you know she liked it?
Well, that's what my aunts would say. My aunts would be, she didn't mind it. I mean, or it didn't seem that way.
Maybe she's just like so used to being mistaken as a man that she just got tired of correcting people.
But I think she wanted, that's what I'm saying, I think she wanted to be taken as a man.
That happens. That's what the transgender revolution is.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. I grew up around both of those situations, and so it's not weird for me at all.
Not me.
Seeing anything like that. And the neighbor beyond that, where I grew up, he was gay. He loved to go hiking naked all the time. Like that's.
I remember when I was this must have been between like 7th and 8th grade. It was the first time I ever got really drunk. And I went to D.C. because I didn't like Richmond. I didn't really like the bubble that I grew up in. And because my older sister was 7 years older than me and she lived in D.C., she lived in this different world. And she was like old enough that like for a Christmas present, I wanted my present to be like, give me a bus ticket to and from D.C. and let me spend a long weekend with Kate. Mm-hmm. And that would be my Christmas present. It was the best present possible because I get to leave, you know, my world and go learn about hers.
It's a classic. You grew up classically like, I need to get out of this town.
Yeah, totally. But like Richmond is not a small town. It's just like the west end of Richmond is a fucking bubble. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't get it. I didn't like it for whatever reason. But I remember going to D.C. the first time, and Kate was throwing a fundraiser for some environmental company that she was working for at the time. And she had a bunch of friends come over to her place, and it was like this big rager. And because she was gay, still is, and she had a lot of gay friends that were coming to this thing too. And I remember meeting the first like flamboyantly gay man that I had ever met before. And it like, I guess I was like, you know, because I was itching to get out of my bubble anyways, I might have been a little bit more open-minded to that, but like it was definitely like an assault to the senses. Like the first time you meet a flamboyant like a man that's like looking for the limelight on him, like mm-hmm. just like fucking sharing it with everybody, mm-hmm. super gay guy. The first time you see that, you're like, whoa.
He's like not ashamed of it. He's not trying to hide it. He is who he is.
Like, he is who he is. And you're like, wow, like, that is an extreme personality, no matter whether he's gay or not. And I remember going to the grocery store with him and getting mangoes, just me and him, which I don't think most people in my school would have even dared to do that.
Mm-hmm. And how old were you again? 8th grade?
7th or 8th grade. I think it was between 7th and 8th grade.
Okay.
And I remember, going to get mangoes with him, and nothing weird happened. It was just like to and from the grocery store, and then I got super fucked up that night.
Yeah.
It was great. I mean, it was a good time, but like, I guess what I'm getting at is like, you know, a lot of us grow up in areas or in circumstances and we're like, I think there's more to the world than this. Mm-hmm. And Kate, to me, is like, she was like the messenger. She was like the liaison between
your connection
between
out.
my world and a different one. So like, yeah, she kind of exposed me to her world, and in doing that, I was like, oh, okay, there's a lot more out there. So I just spent because I was sheltered and because my mom was a little overprotective from sixth grade to 12th grade, I was just like wishing it away and doing as much as I could to put myself in the best position possible to go to my dream school. So I sacrificed a social life and ended up getting into my dream school, University of Wisconsin, represent the Badgers.
Oh my God!
And then
my
the rest is history.
And sister-in-law went there.
It's a great school. Only great people go there.
They're all right people.
All great people.
I'm going to see them next week, actually.
Well, I bet you'll find out how great they are.
In New Mexico.
New Mexico?
Yeah.
Great state.
Really?
Yeah.
I wasn't looking forward to it, but now I'm getting more and more excited.
New Mexico is a beautiful state. Beautiful state.
I'm gonna
Where are they? Albuquerque?
No, they live in Chicago, but we're doing a family vacation in
To where?
Taos.
That's where I was hoping you would say. Taos is fucking awesome. Taos is awesome.
John, shut up. Really?
Yeah.
Because I've been
It's beautiful.
low-key complaining about it.
No, Taos is the shit.
I just feel like I'm going to be hot. I'm going to do a lot of like riding and stuff out there.
I mean, it's going to be hot. But it's like the Taos is the southern tip of the Rockies, so it's not going to be as hot as you think.
We rented like an adobe house or something.
Yeah, because it's like it's all adobe over there.
Yeah, it's my mother-in-law's like dream. She wants.
It's so cool. It's so cool. If you go closer to the winter time, you can go skiing up there too.
I've never skied.
I've tried it a couple times. I have not figured out how to do it.
My mom has. She used to like go on these trips when we were younger. We'd stay with my nana, and she would just go up on a bus.
You?
On a bus, yeah. Because her friend, she had a friend.
Mama needed to play.
my mom did nails and hair, right? And then
I've met your mom. That is not surprising.
And then she went in. And then she was a nurse, like she was a nursing assistant, and she always kind of did nails and hair on the side. And then she would like do nails out of our house, right?
Okay.
And she had a whole nail studio kind of set up. And this girl, I forget her name, but she would come in and get her nails done. I know. Art. Would get her nails done, and she was a bus driver because Reno is like 2 hours away, right, from where I lived in the Bay Area. And so she would drive buses up there for people to ski or gamble or whatever. So she would go up with her and ski. This bitch. I've never skied before in my life. And then I remember too, because my dad was like kind of around then and was like, yeah, your mom just likes to run up to Reno with, and I think this girl was a lesbian, the bus driver, and like was like this lesbian friend, and I was like, what? And then for a minute I'm like, is my mom having an affair with this chick?
I think your mom might have a secret life.
Well, she wasn't.
You don't know
they were
about.
just friends.
Have you ever seen Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah, not in a while.
Yeah, you should rewatch that movie. That movie is fucking genius. It's brilliant. But there's like Napoleon's mom is like she goes like ATV riding in the like the desert with her friends, like just leaves for a long weekend. She's like, there's steaks in the fridge for Tina, their pet llama. Just like going off to do like crazy adventures, and nobody like Napoleon and Kip have no idea what their mom's social life is like. And Uncle Rico is just sitting there like, yeah, your mom's a wild one. She likes to go have fun. You guys have no idea. That's what your mom was doing.
Well, my
mom was fucking raging in Reno.
No. She would like do that, and she was a single mom, and she worked hard. She always had a couple jobs, so whatever, go do it, have a life. But then when we got older, because that's when we were living in the Bay, and then when we moved to Davis, then she went on a phase where she was like going out dating a bunch. And like,
I'm telling you, your mom was wild. You have no idea.
Like the bartender took my mom home once, like to our house, because she was like, I hope she's never gonna listen to this. But
does she listen to these?
No, she doesn't.
She does. She sent this family.
No, she doesn't. But I don't care. I mean, I tell her.
Why would
she
care about that? Like,
I don't know.
It's her life, you know. Who cares?
But yeah, I didn't feel like any. I just like. I like to tease my mom. about that stuff, but who cares?
Yeah.
Some people get so
Moms are here for
crazy
teasing.
about like their parents and like their it's like they, and then parents just are too, sometimes are too, people are too obsessed with each other, you know what I mean? I feel sometimes like
Elaborate.
my mom, even when I was growing up, like me and my brother, she always like kind of wanted us, and I get it, she's a single mom, but she always wanted us at home, and like was kind of soul sucking in a sense, just like,
I can relate.
You get that? But then there's other parents who, like, when I started going around other people's parents and like going in, being like, oh, you're not obsessed with your children like the way my mom is, and it's cool because then
there's like degrees of that too. Like helicopter parenting is a term that has become more and more popular. Would you call your mom a helicopter parent?
No.
I think my mom was closer to a helicopter
Yes.
parent than yours. And my mom definitely had some soul sucking going on for me, but like the rest of my siblings, just like they didn't have as much of a problem with it. I hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you held it in too.
Oh yeah. That's why I'm going off the deep end now, is because I'm making up for lost times. I just repressed everything until I got to college.
In weird ways.
Yeah, and now I'm losing my mind, and
you gotta rage. You gotta scream. You gotta call your parents up and be like, "You guys are crazy."
No, I'm not calling my parents. No, why would I do that? I'll beat a hooker. I'm not gonna call my parents.
You're like, I'll go to jail.
Yeah.
I mean,
the natural order of things.
I might break some ribs, But I'm not gonna call them. Never.
No. I guess I'm going through another phase or growing pain or something. At some point, I will reconnect with my parents without any resentment and just be like, you're just kids doing your best,
they did
trying
their
to
best.
be parents.
Yeah, they did what they thought was right.
Yeah, but when the world revolves around you, until you have kids or you just grow up and you realize that the world doesn't revolve around you, the world does revolve around you. And until then, I'm going to hold a little resentment.
You should. I mean, you feel a certain way and you can't help your feelings, and the world should revolve around you.
Well, but it doesn't, though. In fact, the world does not revolve around any of us. We are just like particles floating in it.
Yeah.
Like the idea of ego is irrational, but yet that's our existence. It's ego-driven.
Mm-hmm. Nothing matters and everything matters.
Yeah.
So, helicopter parents, I think there's such a thing as helicopter children. What do you think about that?
Well, the only, like, what that makes me think of is parents that are dysfunctional and their kids have to take care of them. But what do you mean by that?
Just kind of like the opposite obsession, like people who call their parents every day and talk to their mom, like that, talk to their parents every day.
Yeah.
Several times a day, that's crazy to me. To have that so much in their lives. Yet my mom was like that with her mom, and she wants that to be with me. But my mom fucked up, and she raised two very, very independent people.
Why is that a fuck up?
Because she doesn't. She wants us to like need her more.
Okay.
And that's I think the battle is she any attention is good attention, I think for her. So if she creates these situations where we need her, or it's like she's always like telling us she's never letting us be who we are. She's always just trying to like get in there and tell us what to do, how to do it. That we need to spend more time with her. But then when we do spend more time with her, she's just bagging on us for not being the people that she wants us to be, and more relying on her.
Who does she want you to be?
She wants me to wear lipstick. This is why
she wants you to be a little more glamorous.
Yeah.
In the vein of your mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She tells me that she lives vicariously through me, which I don't think is a good thing. But then she wants me to be a different person so she can live better vicariously through me. If that makes sense.
I mean that. She hasn't been married since you were kids?
No.
Okay. Yeah, naturally she's living vicariously through you.
Yeah. That's rough, though.
For her.
Yeah, and for me. Like, and I mean, we've talked about it recently, and we're working on it, but...
She needs a man.
She has one.
Well, then why isn't he telling her to not do that? Mansplaining is a problem these days.
Well, that whole situation, but I don't know. I explained it to her this way the last time she was here, and it's like, I haven't lived at home since, I don't know, for 15 years now, probably more. And I'm now a different person from when I was then. And it's hard, if you don't see someone so often, like my family doesn't see me very often, when I go home, they still are assuming I'm this 18, 20-year-old person when I'm, 36, almost 40, and they're telling me I need to stop doing this and that. And it's like, why don't you just talk to me, figure out who I am, and let's have a conversation, because I'm old enough now to make my own choices. If I need advice, I'll ask you. And obviously I know the consequences to the choices that I'm making, and I'm still choosing them. So let's have a conversation about something that matters and not something that's just going to frustrate both of us.
Yeah, but don't you feel like that's like kind of, it's like impossible for you to go at home and like have it actually work out like that. It's going to be like Bizarro World. It won't feel right if you're not being told what to do. It's going to be annoying every time. That's what families are for. They're to annoy you for the rest of your life.
No, I have I have fun with my family, but it's just, it's those moments where it's just like...
Yeah, I feel the same way.
I resort back to being like a little bitch, like kid, because I feel like I very much show up to people the way that they think that I already am, and if, I start acting that way.
Yes, I have the same thing. Like, every time I go back home, and I'm lucky because I have 4 brothers and sisters. That's a big family. If I can, like, if somebody peeves me, I have like 4 other people I can talk to. But every time I go back home, there will be like some comment that my mom makes or some question that she throws my way, and I revert back to who I used to be, which is just like, I isolate myself. I repress everything. I isolate myself. I go on a long walk or something, or I just I go over to my brother's place. Thank God he does not live at home with my mom. So whenever I go home now, I stay with my brother and his fiance. It's like way better. But if I have to stay at mom's place and she starts fucking talking about Jesus or something like that, it just like it's like reliving my childhood.
Yeah, but what do you think would happen if you just yelled at that, or just be like, stop?
Yelled at my mom?
Yeah. Have you ever yelled at your mom?
No, I never yelled at her.
What?
I mean, I've argued with her, but I've never yelled at. Like, what that makes me think of is like, well, first off, like my dad. Anytime I started to raise my tone at my mom, my dad would shut it down right away.
Have you ever yelled at your dad?
No. That's not how we deal with that. In the Davenport clan, that's not how you resolve problems. Because my dad's a lawyer. If you started raising your voice in court, if you started yelling at the judge, the case would be dismissed.
But what if you tried talking to him like lawyer speak? Be like,
I
do declare, sir. I would like to bring to your attention this piece of evidence.
Exhibit A. This is my psychological record. As you could see, you have fucked me up.
Yeah, but I mean, there is a little bit of yelling in the courthouse. That's why you have a gavel and you have to calm it down.
You know what's weird is I never thought about that, like a one-on-one conversation, or if I was talking to both my parents, it would have to be dignified and purposeful, the course of that conversation.
You have a very formal family, it sounds like.
Yeah, but at the same time, when it's a family dinner, because there's 5 kids and 2 parents, it's a speaking competition. And my sister's wife, when she first started meeting the family, had an observation that I think blew all of our minds, and that is she figured out after the course of at least like 2, maybe 3 family dinners, she's like, when you guys have a family dinner, everybody is competing for the microphone and you're all trying to make your dad laugh, which was like, whoa, because my mom doesn't really. You've heard the term sense of humor. If you truly believe that there's a sense, yes. If it's a sense whether you have humor or not, I don't think my mom has the sense. Now she can make jokes and like she'll crack jokes, but they're jokes. She stole those jokes from my dad.
Yeah, but so why do you think your mom's that way?
I don't know. I don't know.
Do you ever want to ask her
why she's not funny? Why she's uptight? Why she's overprotective? It's because of her dad. I'm sure.
It's her own experience, right?
Yeah. Her dad wouldn't let her go to college south of or north of the Mason-Dixon line. He's an old school guy, and he was like he had an intensity about him too. I think she was always just kind of a rule follower though, and my dad is a lawyer, so naturally he's kind of a rule follower too. When she was met with anybody kind of trying to challenge the system, it would really shake her world. And I don't think she liked that. And humor is a good way to shake the world. Like I remember she would always say sarcasm is the lowest form of wit. And I was like, what do you know about wit? Which is a sarcastic response, but like fucking laughter is laughter, you know?
You need it.
Yeah.
You need it.
Yeah, totally.
I'm sad. It's sad that your mom can't laugh like that. Does she laugh?
Yeah, my dad makes her laugh a lot.
That's weird to me.
She has a very happy marriage with my dad.
That's good. That they're a good fit. I don't ever remember having a family meal with my dad being there. And when my nanu at my grandparents' house, my nanu he would eat in his garage. We would bring him his food because he was a grumpy alcoholic Mexican who didn't want to talk to anybody.
I can relate.
But yeah, so it was always, and my brother was like always surrounded by girls, females.
Was your dad, or is your brother kind of a Casanova of sorts?
No.
He's a player? No?
Not at all.
Why was he surrounded by girls all the time?
I mean, in his family.
Oh, that's way worse.
Like my mom has two sisters, and I mean we're a real close family, and my Nana, my grandmother, and then aunts and stuff.
That's
Great
like,
aunts.
do you ever see My Big Fat Greek Wedding? Yeah, there's one brother with like 5 sisters. That's rough. That is rough.
I like that movie. That made me think a lot of my Italian side of the family. That movie.
Yeah, I mean,
just the togetherness of the family and all the
yelling, like they're all yelling at each other. There's like opinions left and right, fucking feelings all over the place, and yet they fucking live for each other.
That's how it is. Like that's how me and Andy are too. Like we'll tell each other what we're feeling and be like kind of a little bit mean and be like, then sorry, but at least it's out. You know what I mean? And then we can move on from it. And we were able to express ourselves. But in my family, I remember sitting, because we lived right next door to my great aunt Dee Dee, and she's a Sicilian, like tough old lady that like everything. We called her 7-Eleven because she had everything in her house, and everything was spotless. Like it was from 1920s, but it was like looked brand new. And I remember just sitting underneath the table there, and my whole family just like her and her sisters and brother just yelling at each other. And we'd be like, why are you yelling? We're not yelling, we're just talking. Like, that's it. They just talk.
That's how it is. Yeah. That's it, like, big family, like, the volume level is just way higher. So, Emily, my sister's wife, she was completely overwhelmed by family dinners because she was the only child. That's not technically true. Her parents adopted a kid too, but like their family dinners would be like everybody's waiting to take their turn to talk. It's like that's not how it works in my family. If you're waiting your turn, you're missing it. You have to. It's a competition. You got to fight your way to the microphone.
Yeah, I know how that is out here being in LA and a comedian, and it's clogged. You have to poke it out. Obviously, I'm talking about a pipe. Everybody.
America.
Well, do you have to get going to work in a little bit?
In a little bit. I think
I'm only checking the time now because just to bring up the fact that John Davenport was a little bit late today.
Wow. Wow.
Just a little bit. I was nervous. I would have cried if you didn't come because I was so excited for today.
Yeah, I was too. I was totally excited. I just I missed my alarm clock. It happens sometimes. And I got plenty of sleep last night. I went to sleep before midnight.
Oh, I went to bed at 1. I've been watching Claws.
Claws? Mm-hmm. What is that?
It's with Niecy Nash, it's like nails, and it's like drug dealers and stuff. It's good. I'm obsessed.
What channel is it on?
I think it's TNT, but I've been watching it on Hulu.
No, I am not. I'm not watching that.
It's so good.
I'm not watching that right now. I thought about you know what I almost started to watch last night is Penny Dreadful. Have you ever seen that?
No.
I haven't either. But it said in like the description of the show, it said it's horror among other things, and I love the horror genre. Mm-hmm. But I also like this is kind of weird. I'm sure you might have heard me mention this on stage maybe once or twice, but I'm like really getting into the Peter Pan story.
You told me that in real life.
I'm reading the biography of the guy that wrote it. Mm-hmm. And I read the actual novel of Peter Pan. I haven't read the play, but like I rewatched Hook a while ago. I'm telling you, like I am really into this story. And it kind of reminds me of my grandmother because my grandmother at some point got really into Little Red Riding Hood and then spent 60 years of her life collecting memorabilia for Little Red Riding Hood. And when she died, all of it was donated to the Children's Library in Richmond. But she had one of the biggest collections of Little Red Riding Hood memorabilia in North America.
Wow. So you're going to follow in her footsteps with Peter Pan?
Well, that's what's weird is like ever since so I inherited this painting that from that she had when I would grow up and I'd be in her house and I'd just be staring at this painting. It's like as soon as it got to my place, as soon as it was shipped to me, I put this painting up on my wall and like I rewatched Hook just randomly because I was thinking about Robin Williams. Mm-hmm. And now I've been like kind of like spiraling into this Peter Pan obsession.
I love it.
There's like these weird reasons like my personality, like my habits, like never wanting to grow up is resonating with me right now. Mm-hmm. Wanting to fly, like
I have dreams about
a little
flying
boy
all
complex and like fucking being cocky, but like adventurous, like that. Like there's just parallels coming up left and right. I feel like I feel like I'm going senile and yet finding myself at the same time.
Yeah. That's great.
Like, have you heard? I've said on stage this few times. I can't figure out whether this is funny or not. But to me, it's just like it is a very. It's a realization that I'm coming to. I don't know whether I've found myself or lost my mind.
I think you have to lose your mind to find yourself.
Thank you, Confucius. I needed that. Yeah, I don't know. This Peter Pan thing is throwing me for a loop.
Yeah, I love getting obsessed with stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been obsessed with anything like that.
Well, that's like, how everybody nowadays is like super obsessed with comic books. So comic books are like a very real like trend right now that people are reliving their childhood because they're reinvesting in the comic books, and Hollywood is making big screen pictures out of them. Fairy tales, on the other hand, nobody's really getting into fairy tales. Peter Pan is a fucking fairy tale. It is literally a tale about fairies. You know, like, not all of them have fairies in them, but Peter Pan does. And like, the crazy thing about that story to me is like, fairy tales are always rooted in fucked up origins, and this is no exception. So like, the idea of a kid that never grows up, that's roughly 13 years old, that's because James Barrie, the guy that wrote that story, had an older brother that died the day before his 14th birthday in an ice skating accident, and his mom was super depressed after that and used to make James dress up in his brother's clothes and call him the name of the kid. It was like some fucked up shit. And like, he just grew up with that childhood experience and then spent the rest of his life writing, and then eventually it turned into Peter Pan, and like, it was a huge hit at the time. But like, there's a lot of things that there's a lot of like shit in pop culture that we see now that is because of Peter Pan, and yet like, you would never think it was. Like fairies, I think.
He invented fairies.
I don't know if he invented fairies,
didn't.
but the fairy tale, the idea of the fairy tale, how many fairy tales can you think of?
A lot.
Okay, but how how
the
many?
Brothers Grimm, like, those are all fairy tales.
When were those guys around?
I think, when was Peter Pan guy around?
Dude, their Brothers Grimm is like ancient. It's like old ass German story.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't think of any good examples, but there's got to be a couple. It's got to be.
There's got to be.
Bangarang is not in the original Peter Pan. That was Hook's that was Spielberg's adaptation. But you're totally right. People say Bangarang, like we know what they're talking about. No, you got to give me a second here.
I used to see Rufio everywhere.
Rufio, yeah, another, like, Spielberg made up Rufio. That was not in the original thing.
Yeah, but I used to see him at poetry slams when I first moved to LA all the time. Yeah.
Dante Brasco, I think his name is like Dante Biasco or something like that. Yeah. That's fucking hilarious.
No one can hear you.
You know what's like the original before Barry made it into a play? The story of Peter Pan, it was in this book called The Little White Bird, and the original idea of Peter Pan was an infant less than 7 years old was taken away by a bird and just spends the rest of its life like less than 7 days old.
Oh, 7 days.
That's what Peter Pan was. He was a kid that could fly that never got any older and had his baby teeth still. It was like, I haven't read that version yet, but it's like, I don't know. That, like, this guy, like, after he stumbled on Peter Pan, he kept rewriting it for the rest of his life. How often is a writer rewriting their hit story for the rest of their life? Wouldn't they just
after it was already published?
After it was already published, after it was already popularized.
Dude, well, it sounds like he had some issues, right?
He had some fucking demons, yeah. Some weird shit going on with that guy. And then, like, the idea of Neverland, and, like, Neverland is a place where, despite there being crocodiles and mermaids and fairies and pirates, little boys are at the top of the food chain. They reign supreme. Michael Jackson also had a Neverland where little boys reigned supreme.
Neverland Ranch.
Very interesting parallels.
That is.
Although I from at least the writer of this biography of James Barrie is like, there's no way this guy was a pedophile, which is it's a troubling premise.
There's no way.
There's no way this guy's a pedophile. I'm sure the janitor at Neverland Ranch was like, there's no way Michael Jackson's a pedophile.
Man, that's rough.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
I don't know. I think right now, especially, people are getting, like, there's a lot of fantasy stuff coming out, and that it's because everyone wants to escape, right? That's usually the reason why. people
Yeah.
get obsessed with like comic books and stuff like that, and superheroes are
It's
back. I think it's
escapism,
not just because people are reliving their childhood; it's because it is escapism,
Yeah, totally.
and we want to.
But I mean, like almost everything is escapism when it's a movie or it's a book.
Yes.
You know?
Unless it's I mean, what? Not really. You could get something out of a story. It might be an escapism.
Well, you get something
But
out of the Marvel
You
franchise.
can, yeah.
I mean, there's a difference between watching Planet Earth and watching Iron Man, you know? One is a
Yes.
little bit more, one is addressing the real world more than another. But, like, the sci-fi genre is, in general, like, it's a commentary on humans' placement in an advanced technological world and how we will handle that confrontation in the future. That's usually, like, sci-fi movies are usually about if aliens come to Earth, what that fight is going to be like, or if robots uprise against humans, like, what's that fight going to be like?
But before, it was about like all those monster movies back
Yeah.
in like the 40s or whatever it was.
Like the Creature of the Black Lagoon
Yeah.
and all that.
Because that's like, I remember I took a film noir class and I forgot everything in it, but
Those
there's something
monster
about
movies
like the time
they're usually
of what's
about
happening in the world.
Yeah.
Movies kind of reflect that, like
yeah, like it used to. Yeah, like I think a lot of sci-fi movies and monster movies were about the Soviet conflict, nuclear war.
yeah, war.
What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing.
We got to end it. Right there.
Well, on that note, thanks, John, for coming and having some breakfast with me.
Thanks for the eggs. They were delicious.
Thanks. Nice talk.
Of course.
See you guys later.
Bye bye.
Bye.